Please.
Oh, they're there for.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's 6:32. So although we don't have everyone here yet, we wanted to get started. A happy New Year to everyone, and welcome to January Parks and Waterfront Committee meeting. I am your host. There we go. We've got some more coming in from the cold. We've got a couple people that are stuck on planes. We've got a couple people that are going to be dialing in. Do we have anyone dialed in yet?
We've got Ann Hager.
Good.
And the chair and vice chair.
Okay, thanks. And yeah, and a couple people that weren't feeling well, we said stay home. Well, take care of yourself. So that's it. This is our January meeting. We didn't meet in December, so good to see everyone, and hope you had a good holiday season. Today we have one major topic, and we're fortunate to have, but before we get into it, we have one major topic. It's Robert Atterbury, the Executive Vice President for Park Relationships and Programs for the Park Trust. Pretty good, right?
I got it right.
He's going to provide an update on some activities and some events in the park. We last heard from you, Robert, in August. So I had shared the notes from that meeting just to give people some background. But before we do that, let me go around the room, and I will say just to start that we know that Ritu is not going to be able to join us. She's on a plane. Kristen's on a plane, and Danny. So yeah, I'll start with that. But I start with you, Susanna. Go ahead.
I'm Susanna Aaron. I'm the vice chair of the committee. Frederica Siegel, member.
Prestigious member.
Okay, and then we'll have. I know Matt's going to be a few minutes late, as is sometimes the case. I do expect Shirley. Usually travels this time of year, but she said she'd be on. And who else is on? Susan's on as a guest, I see. Okay, and we have some people joining us. Board member Carter Booth. We always appreciate that he comes, even though he's not a committee member. He's lobbying, he always thinks there's going to be food. And Lynn, say hi. Yeah, thanks, Lynn. Thanks for coming. So let's get right into it. So before it gets too cold in here. So Robert, as I said, Executive President, Park Relationships Programs at Hudson River Park Trust, wants to give us an update. He even prepared some slides.
Oh,
A New Year's resolution.
wow.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I did prepare some slides because parks are really great. We get a lot of good photos, and it's helpful to show some of what's going on. It's been a little while. I want to, trying to make these updates a regular thing. I'll take you through some of the things that we've going on overall generally. I have some more tailored updates on some of the things we talked about last time, and then we'll take some questions. And it shouldn't be we shouldn't be too long here. Mark, do we want to get moving?
It's gonna be cumbersome the way these slides work. I'm sorry.
And Mark, thank you for being here. Thank you for helping.
We opened Gansevoort Peninsula. If folks haven't gone out, they should. It has been, frankly, and we think a great success, very popular. Since we were last year also, there's a new crosswalk at Gansevoort, part spearheaded by the meatpacking bid in New York State that connects, which if you haven't used it yet, you should. It fits seamlessly into the design, and it feels like it's a crosswalk that's always been there. Of course, you could just cut across the Whitney. Folks will remember that the Gansevoort, we have obviously the beach, we have our kayak launch, we have the sports field, which is already in heavy use. We have the building is still under construction. It's a maintenance operation building in a concession. We'll be working on the concession over the next year. It will not open. It won't be open, I think, for this coming season. We'll have to do it. We have to do a much larger request for proposals for it, and well as the salt marsh on the north side. If you, Mark, let's move to the next one. Very exciting at Gansevoort. We had our first sighting of If you hit, I think if you hit, line it up and then hit page.
Yeah,
Down.
try that.
Okay.
Oh, you're gonna show something on the beach. This isn't.
So we had our first, or both the bald eagle sighting here, which is in addition to some of the mud and blue crabs that we've seen on the south side, which we do not have photos of. They're not as photogenic. For it, you can see in this photo, the bald eagle actually has an eel. There's a little white line hanging out from it. That is an eel that I plucked up from the Hudson River. It is eating here. Very successful. We'll talk a little bit later. The salt marsh here is our first effort at this sort of restoration like this on the Hudson River. Hudson River being particularly choppy and hard to do in the way that some other folks have been able to do it elsewhere in the city with a little bit more ease. It's been a very much success. One of our visiting scientists in their from CUNY with their grad students that or their undergrad students have actually been doing research on it, monitoring the growth of it, and it is outperforming our expectations. The usual expectation is about 3 years for it to be established, fully established, and we are well underway towards that goal. You'll see the rope and the gray things in this photo, but when you're out there, they're sparkly. Those are frankly our anti-geese measures. We had some, particularly when the plantings were new, the geese, Canada geese can get in there and they tore them all up and it required some replanting. We had some breakthroughs. We haven't had one in a while, but this will be up until it is fully established, at which point we'll be able to take this part down. Let's keep moving. Upcoming, just south of CB2, we have our science playground. These are our two sturgeon, atomically correct sturgeon. Not pictured here in the photo, because you should go down and see it, is the tail of one of them, which is about 40 feet in the air. This playground is nearly done, and it should be opening in the next couple of weeks. It will be opening in this month. We're very excited, atomically correct, as well as has educational features to explain, say, what a swim bladder is, among others, for it. Our team is very proud of the work they're doing, and I'll definitely send you guys when you go. If you haven't, you should walk by because you can see through the fence, and it's fabulous.
They're making caviar.
I don't believe that we have some of the reproductive features. I don't believe that we have any eggs.
That's going to.
That is going to open this month, and that's down at Pier 26, so in Tribeca, just south of the border there. Let's keep moving. A little bit further north, just north of the Pier 26 area, this is where we have our Tribeca Phase 2 habitat enhancement. These are our submerged water features. We finished its installation this fall of Phase 2, as well as the monitoring pieces of it. We pick up the structures to count how many there are, see how well they're doing. Since 2021, we've put now 35 million oysters into the river as part of our habitat camp. These are doing quite well, as I understand it. You can see some of the gabions hanging from the crane there with this. And it takes, as you can see, we have a diver here. We have to go underwater to track where they are and make sure that they are both mounted correctly and that we know which one is where, so that we can monitor, try to help advance in the science of creating these habitat enhancements. It's sort of a new field, and so we do things like we track which gabion or reef ball from where in the tank went well where, and then over several years how well it is done. I believe we're in year 2 of a 4-year research project here.
Do you go in and recount to see that
they pull a certain number up as a sample. They pull them up and then you actually do it as a sampling. So you take photos of certain sections of them in quadrants and then count within those to estimate the best for us. They are doing well, as I understand it. We've had some die off from the installations, but otherwise they are doing well. And we're starting to try to figure out, particularly here in the Hudson, which is pretty rough tidal waters, and because we are so low in the harbor, the harbor action from boats and wakes is actually quite extreme compared to other areas, say even on the East River. We are starting to do some of the science about how do you place these in such a way that they are most successful? How far out into the channel are they doing better or worse at various locations? So where our science team is continuing to try to advance that.
Okay, great.
Cool.
Let's keep moving. Slightly further north, Chelsea Waterside opened this past summer. If you guys haven't seen it, this is our new field. This is one of our new public restrooms in the park. Over the past year, we've opened 3, I believe, and with Gansevoort and Pier 97, which will be opening, both opening in the next couple months, we will have, I believe the total is 10 public bathrooms. It's pretty significant. We have them pretty spread throughout the park, but it's fun. You can see that building right there with the reclaimed granite is the restroom building. This is up at 23rd Street. We're going to keep moving.
That of course has the field and the dog.
The expanded dog run was also part of that project. We opened this fall, we opened our 34th Street pickleball courts. These are our first pickleball courts in Hudson River Park. They are interim. We had to repave part of our laydown yard up there, which is immediately adjacent to our compost center. We had to repave it because for a number of reasons, and we're able to actually consolidate some of our operations. Freeing up space. So this was previously space that has not been available to the public since well before the park existed, that we're able to create this public basin. I will say, I know CB2 has had its own concerns with some pickleball use in various places. These are very heavily used courts already. They are
When you say interim,
so this area of the park, we are still planning, and it's on the list here. And is it next? Did I put it next smartly? I did. Let's go to the next slide. So we issued a proposal. Part of the mission of Hudson River Park Trust is to build out the entirety of the park. They build, maintain, and operate. So from West 29th Street, which is just basically the south end of the heliport, through West 46th Street, which is the north side of Pier 84 there, which is the spiral to south of the Intrepid. That entire upland area is one of the unimproved areas of the park. And so we are now we are in the process right now of selecting the design team, which will launch the community design process, much like you guys got to do at Gansevoort. CB4 will get to do with this area here for this entire upland area, which includes where our pickleball courts are. So the pickleball courts are interim for now until we have a final design for the project. And the community will ultimately get to decide sort of how they would like to see that space used. But we had to pave it, and it was going to be paved anyways. We had spare solar lights that we were actually repurposed from a previous project down here. And so we were able to sort of frankly mount the lights we had on a paved area that was already going to be paved, put down some paint and some nets. It was a pretty relatively inexpensive way for us to be able to activate a space that we finally could.
Very good. They in this picture.
So I'm trying to see. So you see the barge on the left side of there, slightly north of that. So within that little upland area there. So right across from that parking lot where the High Line curves, right about there. And that's 34th Street that comes across. It's just south of that. We have our laydown yard directly across from 34th Street, where we receive, say, deliveries of 25 tons of pavers, which we get.
so how many actually responses have you gotten to the RFP, or is it too early for that?
No, we have gotten a number of responses to this RFP. I think we got, it was in the teens for it. Design RFPs that are very attractive. And we are in the process right now of interviewing and narrowing it down. I don't know exactly when it will go before the board. It may be later later this month. And then we'll launch the community design process from there, which, as you guys know, takes its own period of time, and then ultimately.
No.
Because this is up in the CB4 area.
Okay.
Question about the pickleball. How do you program that space? Is there a sign-up sheet? Is there?
So we have it much as say our tennis courts here, very popular tennis courts down at Pier 40. If folks are familiar, it is first come, first serve. You get an hour. If folks are waiting, you get an hour to play. Certain groups go and they take over a court and do some rotations within their hour to play. Other folks go and able to come down and just play with their kids for an hour. But it's much like our tennis courts, where it's kind of self-policing in terms of first come, first serve.
Well, you just did, we don't know.
So far so good. There are some folks, they like the lights to be brighter up to sort of the activity standard that we would have at, say, basketball courts or tennis courts, but the solar lights just have that level of power.
Right.
And so that will be, if we were to do a permanent installation, we would be able to do that, but as it is right now, they are safe. Folks use them, they're open till 1 AM, much like our tennis courts.
Wow.
They are very heavily used.
But no residential,
No residential is good.
right?
And also, and that honor
Yeah, I know
system
what you
works pretty much, right, with the tennis courts.
It does, we actually, you know,
I'm curious, because
it
we have
is
so many.
part of all parks, is like you have to learn how to, folks have to share, and it's about community members being able to talk to each other. Our basketball courts, our tennis courts, our fields when we don't have permits. Even with our fields, permit holders have to be able to talk to the folks who are using the field before them, or people who want to use the field during their permit. We do rely on folks to be able to interact with each other in respectful ways, and overall, we have very few problems. We had some problems down at our tennis courts of folks waiting in line and then trying to sell their spot in
Oh,
line.
Oh,
Yeah.
And that
entrepreneurial.
very entrepreneurial, and we had to stamp that one out. And folks can always call PEP if there is a real issue, and PEP is pretty quick to respond. We certainly do. Every once in a while have disputes that we have to resolve, but otherwise, very successful. I'm
Professional line standards or
Yeah, sorry for that.
professional line standards.
Oh, really?
I mean, what's the difference between a regular person and a professional line standard if you are selling the time? Once you start selling it, I feel like you've upped your level of
there's
professional.
some people who call and they.
Yes, there was a, you know, at our tennis courts, we had somebody who started putting out a banner in front of their spot in line, which really outed themselves, and we had to take them out of line. And we put up signs for folks not to fall for it, but no problems like that at pickleball courts. All right, let's keep moving. Further north, last week, actually in between Christmas and New Year's, we were able to open the southern part of Pier 97. It's open it to the public. It is limited access while we are completing construction. You'll see the playground and the sports field and the over Belvedere, all the stuff on the north side is not quite open yet. Those are still under construction, but the whole southern walk can, as well as far western end, the decking and chairs. You can see it out in the lounge chairs out there. We, you know, it is public space is our mission, it's our goal. We were able to open this while construction went on. So we wanted to, it is some pretty spectacular views if you guys go up there. The building will come later this year on the north side, that's with the maintenance operations, public restroom concession, as well as a bike repair station where we have some tools hooked up where you can do some some basic bike repair to mount it.
I don't want to mess up your presentation, so tell me if I should save all my questions later. I wanted to know where the funding for this came from. Was this part of the governor when they decided not to do?
Yes, and I'm gonna screw this up. So this is this is on city. This one is city land funded by the state. Gansevoort was state land and funded by the city, and both as capital allocations.
And was this the thing that happened once they decided not to go ahead with any RFP on Pier 40? And then, is that what it was?
Yep.
And then the governor met with like Durst and stuff
He's
like
the
that?
developer of the building.
Right, and they, okay,
He stepped down, he stopped the lawsuit.
Could you just like give us a better description of what you
I'm
do?
not sure if
Was
it's
this-
allegation.
So this was,
I'm confused, it was a little island law.
so there was a
Yeah, I think it's.
a little island lawsuit, and there was some settlement as pieces of that. This was separate as part of, I believe, a settlement from many years ago, sanitation not departing one of the.
Connected to a little island?
It was part of a much larger sort of grand deal.
Okay.
But we were, you know, we love our capital allocations. It's how we have advanced many of the peers. So we don't complain about where they come from. We are incredibly grateful for the city for funding this piece. We are grateful for the state for funding Gansevoort as part of it.
No, wait. It's the
City-
city land.
Why
state-
are you getting? Oh, yeah.
Yes, I always reverse it. This is the city land funded by the state. Yes, it was there. And Gansevoort was
Is that the first?
state funded by the city. All right. So folks know, as folks should remember, but I'll say again, Hudson River Park, one of our unique features is that we have an estuarine sanctuary. We are not just on the river, we are also in the river. The river is part of the park. We have 550 acres, 400 of which are estuarine sanctuary waters. So the caring for it, the habitat enhancements is not just a nice thing we do, it's actually part of our core mission for it. So this year we had over 12 visiting scientists with this long list, and I'm not going to read them, list of science partnerships who are doing research in the park. Benthic and epibenthic species. We had crab studies, we have oyster studies, we have, as I talked about earlier, salt marsh studies, a world of things, water quality, pathogens, lots of different pieces, microplastics, all going on. We partner with a number of schools and are able to provide them research support for it. We sometimes help with collection, depending on if we are already out and doing it. We have people hanging things off our piers. We have temperature sensors in the water. We have a whole world of research that we're going on for it. We have a very close partnership with the CUNY Research Center, and that includes BMCC, City College, and some of the other city universities. We really work to make sure that their professors, students, both grad and undergrad, are able to come to the park and do research. This year, we actually had our first time CUNY Research Center funded us to do grants for CUNY students. So we had 2 projects who we were able to select and give grants to that were CUNY research projects, professors with their students doing research in the parks, one of which was our salt marsh study.
University of Oxford, where?
University of Oxford, I don't know. I think it's the University of Oxford, and they have I believe they have the site here in the city. All right. Do I have anything else on this one? Nope, let's keep moving. With this one, I will say one piece that we are actively doing right now is we received last year, we received under our federal appropriation from Schumer, Gillibrand, and Congressman Nadler for $750,000 for research through NOAA at Gansevoort. We are in process of putting together that scope right now. We're working with our technical advisory committee on the research on what that role exactly will be. But we modeled similarly to our Tribeca research so that we were able to start creating a series of sites across the park where we can cross compare on the habitat enhancements and how they're doing. The site at Gansevoort is, our researchers are kind of excited about this because of the caissons under Pier 57, which are quite deep and solid, as well as the landfill at Gansevoort. It's actually one of our deeper protected abatements, and they are interested to examine how the oyster development happens and whether they settle in a better way if there's less tidal action.
What?
No wisdom. Brown, no too much.
So this is our science leadership program. This is one of our homegrown programs we do. We partner with Goals for Girls, which focuses on underprivileged girls throughout the city, as well as a number of students from Title I schools. This is our science leadership program is a mentorship-based program. So we have high school students and early college students who act as their mentors, all of whom undertake science research within the park. Most often on seagull boluses, which are essentially like you might know them as an owl pellet, and they cough up, they eat things that they should not, or they eat things and then they cough them up, and they examine them, they count the microplastics, they see organic, inorganic, they create science research posters about it, and then they actually present them at the museum, a poster symposium, American Natural History. So we take them through sort of the entire research process. It is a 2-month-long program, and one that we are thrilled to be able to host and do and start the program. We've had a number of folks who have passed through some of the early years of this who've actually gone on to careers in environmental science. So we're trying to introduce folks who are otherwise would not be familiar that this is a viable career path to do this sort of scientific research into it. And we have a lot more. So as folks will know, we have 4 purpose-built boathouses as well as a legacy facility at Pier 40. We put thousands of folks on the water, as well as we are very excited to have our new public kayak landing at Gansevoort, which we'll see next year. We composted over 119,000 pounds of food waste that we collected from the public at our sites throughout the park this past year. All of that compost gets composted just south of the pickleball courts against the fence there, and then is returned throughout the park. And we collect every year. This year we had our largest year ever with over 1,400 participants at our pumpkin smash event, which is a little outside of your area, where people bring their used pumpkins the weekend after Halloween, and we smash them up. And so particularly in the fall, we have a lot of what are known as browns, so leaves and twigs and other materials that need more nitrogen rich sort of more things that are live food waste. And so we actually, it's a good time of year for us to be able to take in a lot of that. We're also diverting a lot of organic material that would otherwise enter landfill and become methane, which is one of a highly potent greenhouse gas, diverting that compost back here into the park. We have over 5,000, we planted over 5,000 shrubs and perennials, approximately 30,000 bulbs so far this year. The bulbs are all this fall. And I think it's 2,148 trees, I believe, now in the park. And for folks who have been around for a while and remember, 20 years ago, there weren't 10. So it is like the West Side transformation, really an amazing one. We expanded, I believe we added 50 trees this year. And for our Friends event, our Friends program, Hudson River Park Friends, folks know them, we work with them to host volunteers. So we and it's 3,000 volunteers at 122 events. It seems like
Not 3,000.
not 3,000 events. We just have a lot of volunteer for it was like 122 events, I think. Sorry for that type of ad.
And the volunteers also, it generates revenue for the park,
It
right?
does. I have two more updates, and then maybe we can move into questions. Both in the CB2 area. One, we mentioned this last time, but it's now underway. We are in the process of replacing the Pier wood decking on Pier 45. Pier 45 was one of the earliest piers that opened. I believe it opened sometime around 2001, 2003 area. It is the original decking. It's not been replaced that long, and it is time. We are now entering that phase of the River Park where not just new things, but we need to do the ongoing maintenance that goes with what is incredibly heavily used decking. They are starting at the far western end. If you go down to Pier 45 right now, you will see they're starting to take up it. There needs to be subsurface work, and it's actually the boards are largely and actually in pretty solid shape. It's actually the subsurface underneath them that needs to be repaired. So we will be reusing as many of the boards that are possible, reducing the amount of new material we have to bring into the park. And they're starting at the far western end. The lawn is not affected at the moment, and then they will move to the second phase, will be the long stretch along the southern side. They will be doing that in those sort of two phases. The lawn should be open, so the pier is largely available to the public, and it should conclude by June. So hopefully by the true high season, we'll be able to, so we'll be fully out of there. We are also in the process as part of that, looking at some of the electrical work. We still have some lingering damage from Hurricane Sandy actually under there. You will see some of the electrical conduits. If you see cones out in the middle of the field, that is them redoing some of the electrical conduits for it, repairing some of the lights under the shade structure in the middle of the pier. And I believe we're adding some outlets so that we can better support our events out there, so we don't have to use gas generators. They rely on those gas generators for many of our events. We also, and I was hoping I was able to say more than it is, and Rashi Puri from our office, who oversees our real estate, is the only person who's going to answer all the questions. Last time I talked about the marine operator at Pier 40, that contract is coming due. It is currently Hornblower. We put out an RFP this fall. We are currently reviewing responses and have not made a selection. So, although my understanding is that we will have done so, 100% will have done so by the next meeting, and we will hope to bring the selected operator to it. It's going to be a new operator. Hornblower did not reapply this year. And we cannot speculate as to why, although I think we talked last time about how the AG had required them to sub out some of their spaces to cornucopia, which caused some of its own problems. And so that may have contributed to their decision. We did catch at the moment, New York City DOT is actually planning a series of either repairs or improvements to some of their docks throughout the city, DOT and EDC. So we actually had a better than expected response. We had 9 respondents to it, which is a pretty robust response for an RFP like this, because some of those other docs are going offline. We are currently working our way through the review and selection process. Certainly some of the things we talked about, making sure we talked about last time that are in the RFP, making sure there are lines of accountability, that there are ways to address the issues. All of those things are things that I know the select committee is kind of working their way through as we speak. And I look forward to be able to introduce who the new operator next month.
So neither Hornblower nor Cornucopia have applied?
I can't say who has applied, but I will say Hornblower did not reapply
A Cornucopia, in theory, could apply
as
without
an independent.
And you mentioned DOT piers, are some of the piers on the edge not?
Not our pier. So DOT, they have some, there's like Pier 36 on the east side, there's some out in Red Hook, there's some on the East River. There are others throughout the city where folks operate.
Can I ask you a question about the resurfacing on Pier 45?
Yeah.
Was that life expectancy of the decking shorter than expected, or because it's on
Longer than
It
expected.
was longer than expected.
Yeah.
That's good. So it lasted longer than expected.
It did, and it's actually the wood decking, as I said, the boards themselves are largely in good shape. A lot of them actually, what we'll be doing is flipping them, so they're weathering on the other side. But it is the subsurface piecing of it that needs care and replacement.
You don't notice, it looks great still, for the most part.
For the most part, every once in a while you'll notice some boards are wobbly, and that's actually because of the subsurface, the structure that they are on, that they are resting on.
But it's
Pretty amazing.
encouraging.
Really hasn't lasted,
I mean,
you know,
if any homeowner will tell you 20 years for a wood deck is a long period of time, and for the amount of use that deck gets compared to all others is pretty extraordinary. High season in the summer, that is heavily used. So
Also, we know that, operating a waterfront park
yes,
is a different kind of wear and tear than anywhere else.
You-
So it's encouraging to see that it's had.
our stuff is often wears faster. Though this one has been 20 plus years is a solid time span for wood decking.
Really?
Much like our surfaces at some of our playgrounds and others, like they do, it occasionally needs being refreshed.
Give us an update on the tennis court class. Is that all done, that project?
So the tennis courts are fully resurfaced, they're up and running. Seems we have no complaints.
We had that whole change where the crosswalk was coming across.
The crosswalk is full also, it actually, I believe, went fully operational this fall. It is similarly in good shape. It's like it's always been there for folks coming across. It is also the city bike dock that had to be moved in order as part of that. That was moved up towards Morgan, has returned back towards that space. Similarly, seems to be going well.
Can I ask you about I should be looking.
Oh, I don't have a question, no. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Evan,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I wanted to ask about the dog run on Gansevoort.
Yeah, good
Where does
question.
that
I have that on my list.
The dog run on Gansevoort, I should have said, is fully open. Folks will know we have the large dog run, which is quite large. I should have brought the photo of the fabulous first dog in it. I should have put it in here. I don't know why I did. It was an extraordinary full-size poodle with quite the haircut. We have a small dog run as well as for us, and we haven't done the full search to say it, but I will say perhaps likely what we believe the first sort of dog, we are calling it a dog training area. So this is a set aside area for one family and their dogs immediately adjacent to one of theirs for off leash training. So if you have a reactive dog or you want to do other pieces, you can do so next to the dog run without having to be in the chaos of dog run itself. That is similarly a first come, first serve. We've set a 30-minute time limit on that.
Sign up sheet or?
So first come, first serve, you gotta wait. We'll see if it needs to change. In general, sign-up sheets, I think, my understanding, don't often work well, as I've watched some parks departments struggle with over for some of their tennis courts. But first come, first serve, you wait, folks there. I have not heard much about how it's been used yet, but it is something. I know, Lynn, do you have?
And trust for doing the training.
That's wonderful.
That's above and beyond any person done in New York City. And we really do appreciate
Wonderful.
As far as the size. I appreciate that we got something. Too small, it's really great. We were speaking about a new dog run. We need an off-leash area, which takes considerable footage. We spoke about that in October,
Yes.
and I'm curious to know if any progress has been made.
No, but let's come back to that at the, when we're done with, Gansett, when we're done with, this.
I'd like to say something about. So,
I'm here,
yes.
okay,
At the trust.
okay,
So at night when the bathrooms are closed, people use the bushes and the lawns. I mean, the guys would just go to the edge and just use the lawns, depending upon what they're doing. And you can find all kinds of things there in the light of day. I became squeamish about it, about lying on the lawn after observing it so much. I spoke once about putting a closing time on the bathrooms, because if they know that it closes at 8, people might want to go there before it closes. But the last time I went to the one by Pier 45, there was no closing time on the outside. So if you include a closing time, that might help that a bit. And I remember years ago, there used to be porta potties or.
Yep.
I don't know, between that again, but that would help us.
So the hope is to have built facilities and not rely on porta stand, porta potties. We do have them in a couple places in the park, particularly in high season. Pier 76 is one of the examples where we don't have a nearby restroom, and we have, say, events. We have our Sunset Salsa series there, and we bring porta stands there. The hope is to have built facilities, which I think everyone can agree are generally much nicer. We will have the new one at Gansford will be opening when the building is complete for there. We do actually, and I'm interested to know when you were looking for the closing signs, because it's actually something that our facilities team did, I believe, over the summer into this fall, is that for each of our bathrooms, at each one of the doors, we actually did install cases for to post opening and closing hours. We do shift them. In the winter, we close earlier, in part because there's less of demand, and there are fewer people out. So each of them should have it. So I don't know when you were last looking. It may be that some of them are poorly placed, in which when we can also take that, I can take that back and look for them.
I think it was late last.
Okay.
And it's the senior time, we get the most use of most people.
Yes, so that is, I think, maybe part of an endemic problem. We do shift our bathroom hours later in the summer, understanding that we have folks who are out in the park later. We do close at 1. Our bathrooms close before then, but it is a thing. But they should each have one. So you should go take a look to see. Some of them, because of the structure of the building, are not ideally at eye level, but it's things we also have noticed. Thank you.
Is this the microphone?
It is.
Okay, because there is a request just to make sure that,
Probably more for folks.
yeah, right.
so that's Pier 57's going well?
Pier 57 is going great. It opened, full ground floor opened earlier last year. I think, I may have mentioned it last time I was here. It is, the market seems to be going well. Our space at the far end, or what we know as the Discovery Tank, which is our full purpose-built classroom, is highly successful. Our word is out. This year, this is our first winter season of really being able to do field trips. So it's a pretty big expansion for us. Schools right now, we're kind of in the window where field trips are not happening as things are coming back. Next year, we will start having field trips sort of twice a day. I believe we have 2 slots a day, 4 days a week at Pier 57 next year, this year. So it's pretty significant, but it's our first season of being able to do that sort of the winter education piece of it. There are some coming pieces that we'll add. There's the restaurant on the far end, a cafe on the roof, as well as the arts and culture space down below that are still to come and still in progress, but we look forward to those opening as well.
Right. Let me just finish up the permitting of Gansevoort. Is that, how's that being?
Oh, sure. So I think it was on my list here. I knew I was going to be asked about this. So Gainsborough, it's part of our standard spring permitting process, and it was part of this winter one. Our winter season is not as robust, so there are far more open hours than there will likely be going forward. I believe winter applications for the leagues are due on January 15th. They, I believe, all are very aware of it, and it will be put into a full rotation. We'll see some leagues, new leagues, some expansion of leagues with expansion of hours, and some shifting around. Gainsborough is, frankly, works better for soccer. The age of which you can do, we have a pretty low cap on baseball. It's really much more t-ball. So it will likely that some of the folks who right now are doing soccer at Pier 40 may move to Gainsborough in order to free up more hours for baseball and softball at Pier 40, which is a better facility for it, and can accommodate a larger age range. So there's a grand shifting as part of it. Also because again, Chelsea Waterside was down until sort of early last spring, where there has been a lot of shuffling around, but I expect everyone's there. But our leagues are very aware.
Good, January 15th, good. Yeah, it's Susanna, I cut you off.
No, I'm sorry, I was speaking out of turn. I had a question about, there is so much education that the trust seems to be doing. It sounds to me like that is really an area of growth with the trust. I wondered how much of your staff is needed to run this.
We actually added 2 additional educators or beginning in the spring this year when we expanded with Pier 57. We do our guided gallery hours there, which are sort of walk-in pieces of it. So we actually added 2 educators. We now have 4 full-time educators as well as an education manager who oversee these, and that's addition to our science staff, all contained within the River Project, which again was, the folks will remember, was in the park, and the park actually absorbed as a nonprofit, I believe in 2020. Some CB2 members will probably remember that piece of it. So it is a key area of growth. We are actually right now, and I was editing the first draft of it today. We're actually putting together our education program guide about how to sign up for field trips, all those pieces, all the various things people do. And I'll make sure you guys all get a copy once we have it published and ready to go. And we would love your help getting out to local schools and others. We have a lot of good connections. Over 50% of our field trips in educational programs are targeted towards Title I schools. So those are schools that have a majority of free and low cost lunch and have their fee waived. So we work with them on a range of that to do this on a essentially free basis for a lot of public schools.
And how big is your science staff?
River
Ish.
Project is as a total 2, 3. I believe it's 10 for educators. Yeah, 10 total.
And including educators? No.
Including educators,
So
yeah.
10,
So I think we have
that's-
sort of our 2. We have a science coordinator, director of our wildlife. We have a science coordinator who does a lot of visiting scientists, which requires a fair amount of robust permitting on all those pieces, and then some of our managers.
Thank you.
Question between Pier 40 and Pier 45, there was a project a couple of years ago for a seawall.
Seawall repair.
Yeah, and we were warned that might be the first of what would be a process. Or other.
So we actually have recently undertaken a more robust ongoing marine monitoring process, where we are doing inspections of all of our piers and bulkheads on sort of an ongoing annual basis. But we don't have, I do not have any, have not heard that we have any major projects in the CB2 area brewing at the moment. Certainly, we know we have a historic seawall, and if there is, say, another event, Irene or Sandy, other places could fail. But at the moment, we don't have any projects pressing. Lynn?
Since the Tony D'Apolito pool has been closed and there's no idea this will reopen, is there a possibility of putting pools in the new between 29th Street across the street. I don't know if there's any way to put temporary pools up in the CB2 area and south of here for these kids that used to use it every summer.
So the particularly 29th through 44th Street is both very narrow and an incredibly complex area. It has a lot of competing uses. The moment has the heliport, it has our compost yard, it has a service yard, has Pier 76, which is much like Pier 40, one of those ongoing process that we're working on. It has a private Pier 78. It has the Pier 79 ferry terminal, EDC ferry terminal, and MTA charging station. It has Circle Line as the uses, which has 2 piers, and then it has the existing Pier 84. So I think it is highly unlikely we're going to be able to fit much of anything that there. It's already an incredibly complex and complicated area. And I actually missed one of 2 MTA turnaround sites, which is at Pier 84 area. So probably not there. We also in our narrow capacity, where we have a pool space for a pool. It's certainly something that we could consider if there's a strong interest for it. I don't quite know how we would do it technically, given the need for like a construction building for it. In particular, here in the CB2 area, we are, I believe at this point, with Gansevoort fully built. Gansevoort is the final section in CB2, where the CB2 section of Hudson River Park is fully complete, except for Pier 40. Thank you for that.
Sorry.
That's it.
There's some people online. There's Coral, I see my, you turned Coral's,
Yeah, hi guys. I had a question to follow up on the sort of the universities that you're partnering with, and I'm wondering like how strategic this is, whether you all are just sort of agreeing when universities reach out to you all to work with programs, or if there's someone really thinking about how you all could actually create like a center to even like win awards as HRP, rather than having all the universities win awards for whatever work you end up doing at the park, because you really probably could do that. And that could be like an actual leading center if you know, but someone has to really, think about how to organize that. And if you have staff, that's awesome. So I'm wondering whether this is happening ad hoc, or there's really a strategy around how are we going to build like best in class research facilities here and actually do that like sort of as a center for the world.
Definitely. So actually a lot of thought goes into our partnerships with this. One of our main focuses is actually we are trying to build a much larger partnership with CUNY itself as a city institution, a public institution. We think that there are a lot of overlapping mission goals with it. In order to build serving underprivileged youth, making sure that we are reaching the widest audience possible. We actually do it. We also have a number of CUNY institutions fairly close to the park. We have BMCC, there's John Jay, and City College. We also have a really heavy focus on university institutions with strong marine science divisions. There is some of the ones you'll see on the list have stronger ones than others, because some of the ones out on Long Island actually do come in. Cornell also has a really strong marine science division. And so we are able to they are much more aligned with some of our research than other institutions. At just north of the Science Play area, but between Piers 25 and 26. It was not in this presentation, but we are actually currently in the process right now of going through a design process with Community Board 1 on what it will be called our estuarium, and that is our science and education and research center. We currently have our Pier 40 wet lab, which is we absorbed as part of the river project. If you ever go there, you can see the pipes on the wall and where they drilled the hole in the ground to drop the pipe to pick up the flow through water from the Hudson. And we're building our intent is to build a much more intentional center, as you said, to really make sure that we are providing both the research facilities, but then also being able to showcase our fish, our aquaria, and those pieces. But we're in the design process for that right now with Community Board 1. We've had 3 meetings this fall, community design meetings with them this fall, and we'll hopefully be wrapping up the process this spring. We have our previous estimates, and this is one of the pieces the design is going to help us update, is the cost of that. We have about the previous estimates were about $30 million. those are years old at this point, which means that it is certainly higher. And we had for up until recently about half of that money. So we would still need to seek out the funding. Our hope is if we have a design, we will help attract funders for that more directly. And then it
I
would
mean, university endowments can totally cover that. So yeah, I mean, that's, anyways, it's just something to think about.
yes, it is. It is. We are. We are very intentional with our partnerships to try to attract it. A lot of universities, they are. They have their own facilities and try and attract their own researchers. So sometimes it is. We are there. It's our missions are not always directly aligned, even if the research is truly aligned, because they too are trying to go for a lot of grants and have folks come use their facilities for research.
Well, it sounds great. Is there a person that is the like primary contact point for that? For the estuarium, or I can't pronounce it properly.
For the estuarium. So right now, Kate O'Malley, who is on our design team, is it. We also folks will know Tina Walsh, who is our assistant vice president of education, is also really does a lot of the oversees a lot of our partnerships with universities on that piece of it.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that.
Are there any other hands up? It all sounds so great, Robert. What are the, did you have, first of all, do you have any good honorees?
Hear
Do
you?
you have any good honorees of Friends this year? Yeah.
I'm going to give Susanna here a shout out. Susanna Aaron was honored by Hudson River Park Friends, our fundraising group this year.
Yes, good.
Being on the committee.
That's
I wanted
right.
to ask another question about the estuarium. My understanding is that there was a point at which there was a partnership with a university that was gonna help build the estuarium. Isn't it Carleton College or something? Maybe before your time.
That is before my time, and
And I think it felt,
whatever
so I
reason,
think
it's not
given
well,
the
yeah.
Costa Coral's interest in it, I think that is certainly an area from what my experience that the trust is interested in.
we have been. It's a work in progress.
Yeah. And then, you seem like everything's great. What issues do you have? I mean, are there any other issues?
I was gonna just bring up, because of your concession.
Let me do
Liquor licenses, it's taking the liquor license.
Can you just speak?
It's taking the, yeah, so because there's so many concessions within the park, liquor licenses, it's taking up to a year for liquor licenses to be approved, and your concession lengths are 2 years, I believe, right? Maybe a little longer, but there's a cycle, because we've gotten I think I've noticed that in the past. I don't know. What
I think
could you encourage the applicants to be so jumping on that?
Yeah.
And sending us a notice because of the 30-day rolling period? We have to wait, but if we get the notice, even now, if you're deciding in a month from all of them and they withdraw it, we can still move more quickly. And I just say this because the cornucopia licenses are still pending.
Yeah.
And that was in August, and they came to us in September, and it is now January. Just it is a
duly noted. Thank you.
point.
No, they certainly.
And so it's very important, because I know it's important for you guys.
Yeah.
For the revenue, so.
Were there other liquor licenses? There's the waffles.
5.
Yeah.
So there's that's Drift In.
Drift
In has one, and then it's in. Well, that's both of those are outside of the CB2 area. So then it's all the boats for the Pier 40 marine operator, and right now cornucopia and one boat do the dinner cruises,
Right.
Things like that. So
Then down, there's the wine bar.
Grand Banks.
we have
Yes.
Banks, which is on the boat. We have City Vineyard down there. We have Pier 57 just north of you guys.
Yeah,
All of the individual operators of the market can have them, and then similarly we have some further north, certainly Chelsea Piers, Frying Pan, the Circle Line,
a lot of that.
Intrepid. Yes,
It's a big
Bar crawl.
place.
So who's the?
Yeah, what, I can't read, who's got a hand?
Roland.
Oh, okay, and then who's the comment?
Jeffrey Rowland.
He can unmute himself whenever he's ready.
Okay, go, watch go, Jeff. Then who's the comment from? Happy, oh,
Not about Hudson River Park.
I think Jeffrey was he's a guest.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
able to speak.
Thanks.
I just want to say I'm thoroughly impressed with what the trust has done. My wife and I have been walking on the river's edge from back when it was the West Side Highway, and we used to walk up there. We love going over there. We go over, I've been to the wet lab. I think it's brilliant. I like watching the kayakers as they sit on the bench. What I have one comment that would be negative, and I really love this park that you've done with it, is that accessing it has become hazardous for me. I wonder if there are any statistics being kept, or if there have been any incidents recorded of pedestrians trying to cross the bicycle path. I find that the bicyclers, the skateboarders, and whatever else travels on all wheels don't seem to care at all about the yield signs. And I wonder if that you've entertained the idea of putting either speed bumps or some other method, or even possibly having an officer there during rush hour when it has become dangerous, because it's such now a super highway for commuters. The light change, I have less trouble crossing the car traffic than I do the bicycle traffic. And I know that, and I'm not invalid in any way. So if I'm having trouble at 75 and in good health, I can imagine that it is restricting the use for so many other people in less good shape than me. And that it would be a shame, because it is a wonderful park. You've done a wonderful job with it. So anything you can tell me about either incidents that have occurred or plans you have to make it better, I'd appreciate for the major crosswalks. Like Canal Street is the one that I have trouble with. I don't know about the others.
Street? Definitely. So he's talking about the bikeway at large. And this is a topic that I can talk about at quite some length. So I'll try to go over quickly. So the bikeway was constructed as part of Route 9A, which is the West Side Highway. It is under the jurisdiction of New York State DOT. And this is in the legislation, our statutory legislation that established us and our powers and our existence. Our eastern border is the bikeway's western border. That is how it is currently established. So it is actually outside of the park, which limits our ability to do much of all. We have a maintenance agreement. We are certainly the government agency that is around the bikeway the most frequently. It's how we move between the park. It's how we have you guys will see our golf carts out there and our Motrex, our guys moving stuff around. It's how we avoid having to use cars to move throughout the park. But it is, we have our maintenance agreement is to pick up trash and sort of water the plants. And we don't have much more else. We do, we report loose cobbles when we see them. So it is actually it is outside of it. It just falls under the jurisdiction of not PEP, which is the Parks Enforcement Patrol, which is who we contract with New York City, who does all parks enforcement within New York City. And so you guys will know them, Washington Square Park, the others, they do Central Park, Prospect Park, which has certainly their own interior roadways and bikeways. But unfortunately, they are only able to do parks. And the bikeway is not part of the park. It is part of the highway. So the jurisdiction actually falls to the NYPD. It is a incredibly hot and well-discussed topic at the Hudson River Park Advisory Council, which is our statutory body, of which CB2 is a member and has appointees to, as well as a number of organizations around the park. There have been any number of proposals over the years to work with state DOT or others to do it. I know, I believe CB2 and some of our other boards, maybe 1 and 4, and the borough president have called for there to be take a lane of the highway to turn it into a bikeway. Any other versions of it? There's certainly a lot of hot discussions around e-bikes. Hudson River, the section of the bikeway along from Chambers 259th Street, so the section along Hudson River Park, e-bikes are prohibited on that section. You can ride an e-bike south Riverside Park, and then at 59th Street, you're supposed to exit. You can ride north from Battery Park City on an e-bike, and then you're supposed to exit. And it's certainly an ongoing, and frankly, we would notice a endemic problem. We note things, but unfortunately, it is frankly outside of our jurisdiction. We have, for our purposes, tried to work with PEP and the NYPD to do it. Right now, our chief security officer is working with PEP and the precincts along the park to set up joint enforcement efforts. So we have for PEP to go out with the NYPD to enforcement for e-bikes certain areas, NYPD doing sort of the bikeway pieces. Bikes are prohibited from within the park and our esplanade. You're not supposed to be riding on the esplanade, as I'm sure some folks here have experienced, which is what PEP can enforce. So they do some education efforts. So we're trying to do what we can to engage in that. Ultimately, it is like PEP has very limited ability to do much of anything. It really has to, they can do some at some of our intersections, but unfortunately they can't. It is it falls to traffic enforcement for it, which is under the NYPD. Our advisory council has discussed trying to talk to our precinct community councils and others about it. But as of right now, that sort of situation is as it stands. It is technically outside of the park. Frustrating.
Is there any way to transfer the jurisdiction to the parks from the bikeway?
So it is part of the highway, and unfortunately, I don't think that it would make sense for us as a park agency to take on what is frankly a major transportation corridor for it.
It might empower you to do things like put speed bumps in or something where they become a problem.
I think that is where a transportation agency has to be making those decisions. We do not have the expertise on it to be able to do it. I know there are certain concerns about speed bumps and humps and everything else, and I defer to Shirley and all the others on CB2 who have talked, I'm sure, at length about bike lanes. In a way
I certainly thank you for the efforts, and I applaud you for the wonderful park that you're managing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, a little bit of slowing around the bollards where those were put in. I think people slow there just.
Well, the bollards are both, they do slow. They are themselves a hazard. Folks remember that they were installed after the 2017 terrorism incident. There are an unfortunate necessity.
Yeah. But I think in a way they slow. And the truth is, it's going to become more crowded as Will opens that building. When we Google's 550 Washington will open, and Jeffrey used the term, it's a commuter path, and it will be
Most used bike path in the United States.
It'll be more crowded.
That's their claim. I have not ever actually seen a statistic to back that up, but it is the claim. And I will say, like many things, we are both Hudson River Park and the bikeway are not immune from the trends of the city writ large, right? Like the city has legalized e-bikes. You can ride a bike path all the way to the bikeway. You cross the highway, and suddenly you're not supposed to be on one. And there is a conflict in their ability to do it.
And there's commuting to Hudson Yards now.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, I mean, because of the unique structure of the trust, you have appointees from both the governor, mayor, or deputy of operations, who alternates, right, as chair of the trust. This topic comes up
all the time. It comes up all the time, and we have raised it with both city and state DOT and many others repeatedly. We share our observations and concerns. I will say that there is an e-bike that goes by with a dry cleaning hitched trailer, goes by my window in my office a couple times every day. We certainly have we are aware of the problem, and we have raised it with the appropriate folks and more.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not that nobody wants anybody on. It's just make it okay to cross during certain times when
somebody's gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah. And I appreciate everyone's confidence in Hudson River Park Trust and their desire for us to ever take over ever more responsibility. But we stick with what we've been assigned.
Any other big issues that we can help with, or small issues?
So those are my updates, and I look forward to coming back next month with where we can hopefully do an introduction for the new marine operator.
Yeah, right, and that's good. It's great. All right, well, thank you. See any more?
Anyone else?
Address Darlene's question, which is not about this.
Well, we can do it after. I can let Robert.
It's great update.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Yeah, well, it just for everyone's back, as we're starting the meeting, we were talking about the challenges that we face in the Department of Parks and Recreation and the budget cuts there. and Robert, I hope you don't mind me saying, said it's a different situation than Hudson River Park Trust. In terms of budget management and control,
Yeah.
autonomy.
And I'm happy for some of the newer folks who don't know, and reminder for some other folks. So Hudson River Park Trust, we are a New York State public benefit corporation. We are sort of a unique form within New York State, in that we are a truly joint city-state entity. Our board is appointed by the mayor, the governor, and the borough president. So no one entity has a majority, which is itself unique. We are self-funding, so our operations and maintenance it comes from within the park. So places like Pier 40, which generate revenue, particularly from our parking there, but also a marine operator, which we talk about next month. City Vineyard down south, Pier 57, Chelsea Piers, Circle Line, all contribute revenue back to the park, which then we reuse to pay for the ongoing operations and maintenance of it. It is no small feat to do. It does mean that our budgets are independent of the city and state's budget. We talk about, and this committee has talked endlessly about Pier 40 as its need to generate revenue, particularly before it was stabilized in sort of its current form, and when it was had issues with its piles. About the need for that ongoing revenue and sort of a long-term lookout. As our maintenance obligations grow, say like Pier 45 ducking, which eventually does come around, we will see ever increasing costs as we have to do the larger maintenance projects, and we get out of sort of park building mode, which we have been in. This past year was our 25th anniversary of the signing of the Hudson River Park Act. As you saw uptown, say 29th to 44th Street, we have unimproved areas that have never been touched. That we are just now getting to. But as these other areas, Pier 45, Pier 46, Pier 51, need to be reconstructed, our maintenance obligations will grow. And therefore our need for either revenue or outside income will come about. So, but it does mean that we are in this moment of budget cuts sort of insulated from some of that.
It's one of the rare times where it seems to have a benefit to not be a budget item on the city or state. A line item on the city or state, because normally that's one of the big problems for the park, is that there is no operating money that comes from the city or state.
There was one thing as you were speaking that I was reminded of, which was what? No, it was
Worry miles?
no. I'm sorry. It was a good thing.
Capital versus operating?
No, we've talked through.
That they finished in CB2?
What?
That is,
Pier 40.
you really should memorialize that and see, and that really is a noteworthy thing.
With the exception of Pier 40, which is its own
The big-
15-acre site.
You have to wait.
No, do you think congestion pricing is gonna make Pier 40 parking so valuable? And can I?
So Pier 40 is within the congestion pricing zone. So we are much like we are in the same condition as all of our all the inland garages. We don't quite know exactly what it will do to parking demand overall. Certainly there could be maybe changes in the market. We have seen pretty significant growth of parking revenue at Pier 40 over the years, and we have a parking garage manager on our real estate team who does a very excellent job for it. So we at the moment, we feel pretty comfortable with it. How it will impact us much will be determined with how different pricing impacts the overall market.
I thought people could stay outside of it.
Yeah.
Going down Waterside Highway. Yeah.
Everything south of 60th Street is within the zone. If you
West Side Highway.
if you stay on the West Side Highway and depart out, you are not charged. But my understanding is, from what I understand, is that it's gonna be like a time-based thing. So you enter at 60th Street, if you exit at the Battery Tunnel, but within a certain window, you will not be charged. Rather than, like, there are not gantries at every turn to say, did you turn in or?
I was going long on parking there and I was gonna sell it my spots. But you are various prices, which, I mean, it's not cheap. You know, it's for them.
We are below, significantly below market.
A lot more than.
How much of the revenue comes from daily?
I don't actually know off the top of my head.
That's what might.
Yes, or increase this, depend, you're right,
If we're still towed,
you're right,
You're still within the zone.
you're right. Yeah, that's
I was just
true.
wondering, ships, if people drive in.
It depends on it. The
Yeah.
ship pieces, depends. Those are folks who are coming in for an event. I think it's gonna be. Our guess, I think, is gonna be more, there are daily commuters who are doing that, which we think are few. The folks who are,
Sorry.
it is the folks who are coming in right every day who will do it. Those who are coming in for special events probably won't change as much.
That's a good question, though. wasn't it?
Such a good question.
Thank you, I'm glad I remembered. Before, then,
Can I just ask about that? I'm just unclear. If they turn off of the West Side Highway to turn into the garage, they will not be charged congestion pricing, or they will be charged?
They will be. If you are within the zone and you go to park, you will be charged for the entering the zone.
East or west.
If you come down the highway from way uptown, so you're outside of the zone, you're traveling on the highway, so you're not considered in the zone.
right.
If you turn to go into the garage at Houston Street,
Wouldn't think
will
so.
you suddenly get charged?
That's what he's saying.
So I will, this is a piece I think is hard, it's hard to explain. As I understand it, the West Side Highway, it's not in the zone. It is within the zone. So if you are within the zone and you are on Houston Street and you go to turn on the West Side Highway to go to 14th Street or 23rd Street and turn back in, you have not left the zone and re-entered. You are always.
No, that's not really addressing my question. My question is for those people who are traveling on the West Side Highway who are not getting charged because they've come through
Formed.
an area where they're just passing through. If they're going from the George Washington Bridge to the Battery Tunnel, was my understanding that you are not going to get charged if you stay on the highway.
So
But I'm wondering if some of those people turn to go into the parking garage, will they get charged? Because it's west
So it's-
of the zone.
as I understand it, it's the way in which the MTA is setting this up. It is not about turning or not turning. It's going to be likely a time-based thing. So you cross 60th Street and you have X number of amount of time in order to exit at the Battery Tunnel, and for it. And so whether you turn right or left, as long as you beat that clock down there, I think my understanding is that is how they are doing it. They are not putting gantries at our driveway, at Houston Street, at Clarkson Street, at Morton Street to track who's turning.
Thank you. That addresses my question.
Yeah.
When you come down the hill at 59th Street, you go through a detection point,
Yeah,
and that's how it activates.
yes, and if you do not exit within a
So
circle.
if there's traffic to get into the Holland Tunnel, even if you.
I don't want to get into, but I don't quite know. This is, you've exhausted my knowledge of it. I did a lot of understanding about whether or not anything would happen at Pier 40. The answer is we do not have the information. Well,
Right, well, let's let Robert go and then we can discuss if you want to stay, but last chance.
anything else? Oh, sorry, we have one question. Pep is not doing enforcement on the Greenway.
No, that,
Not to put them in, they tell me it's too dangerous, they don't have enough personnel, they send their cause and watch Waterside distribution must advocate forcefully
Yeah.
for.
he just said the PEP does
Yeah.
force the green. Oh, no, on the Greenway, are we talking about within, not on the bike lane, but within the,
Oh, the Greenway is.
The Greenway is the
bike
Greenway is
lane.
like,
PEP doesn't enforce there, you explain.
Right, that's what you explained.
Yeah, there's-
Tech has no jurisdiction over the Greenway.
Right, but he's right, there's no policing of it. They're e-bikes running on it.
so we've set up, our head of is doing work to set up some joint enforcement between PEP and the NYPD, they're working on one with each of our local precincts, but yeah, it is the NYPD that is primary jurisdiction.
Is that new? Because I've seen PEP do enforcement at the bike
Cross.
lane. Just,
Coming
So I've
off
seen
the
it.
plane.
no, on the bike,
because
like
he-
making sure people stop at the red light.
Because
I've seen
so
it
many
a number of
kids.
times.
So that is
I don't remember when the last time was, but.
where there is that sort of intersection, they can do some. What we cannot task them to do is patrol essentially the bike lane, which is outside of the park. But doing, say, traffic enforcement in and out or safety in and out is a little bit different. But we can't, they are not crossing guards, they are not the NYPD to do enforcement of the bikes. That is not it's a secondary piece, it is not a primary mission. And they do them at entrance of Pier 40 as part of getting cars in and across there, because they are doing the turnaround. They're moving the traffic throughout the turnaround, which is within the park.
I'm just bringing it up because they engage specifically with bikers and not with the cars. It's.
Yeah.
And they're on the bike lane going south. So nuance, but
No, they do force the cars to follow the path, and you have to go right and or left.
oh, no, that what I'm saying is they stop the bicycles. They
Oh,
don't.
yeah.
The cars, it's pretty obvious.
You'd be surprised. Coral's question is written out there. Can you see our high school age summer internships at HRP limited only to kids at city as school?
No. Our summer internship, the science leadership program, has an application process. I can share with you where it is. We do have a partnership with Goals for Girls, run by the Intrepid, which focuses on underprivileged high school girls to get sort of them engaged in the science piece and that are underrepresented within the science community. But it is an open application.
That sounds great, because I just looked at the website, and the ones that say environmental education internship don't specify it's high school, nor does the field science. And the one that says high school internship program specifies it's only for kids that study at schools. So maybe that could be fixed on the HRP website.
I think we have a focus on New York City public schools, but not city as school. City as school is a institution, but it's New York City public schools.
Yeah, she
I'm
knows.
just reflecting what's on your website right now.
Yeah,
I'm happy to add the text to the. Here, I'll put it in the. I'll send it to you directly, so you can.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
but yeah, I would love to know the.
Yeah. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Robert.
If there's anything you need, awesome.
Well, I'll be back next month.
Good job.
Oh, yeah. That update, yeah, that was one that when we had that meeting in August, there were a lot of people who commented on some of the some of the operational problems and the noise complaints and the administrative challenges that they were aware of. How hard it was for HRPT to do the enforcement,
Yeah.
especially doing the third party relationships and the transfer and all. So it'll be good to know that that's clear, that's cleaned up, or that's made clearer.
Understanding that it's a revenue generator for you guys.
Definitely.
All right.
Thank you.
Did you have a favorite summer event?
I will say I always enjoy food barbecue.
Yeah.
Pier 76, largest ever that we've had, 16,000 people.
Oh, my Lord.
On Pier 76. It's a solid one, but it's one of the few ones where, we get our, some food and drink available to it.
Good.
All right, well, thanks again.
Thank you.
So obviously no resolution needed, just we'll make the note, we'll put in the notes. Robert had pushed to come, he was background on this, they really thought they'd have a decision made on the decision on the marine operator. So he asked to come, and then when he said it wasn't decided, it's gonna be decided in the next week, he still asked to, because he had a lot of good things to say.
Still useful.
Yeah, so, and the truth was when booking it, Parks is not really back yet. And to tell you the truth, I think Parks is really from the holiday. Parks is really trying to figure out the effects of the requested or the demanded budget cuts from the mayor's office.
So are we in new business?
No, yeah, we're in new business, yes. Oh, let me just do two quickly. Just one thing before I forget. I know you look forward to it every year. It's already on your calendars. You mark it all. Mulch Fest 2024, Friday, 10 a.m., Washington Square Park.
Do you have your outfit?
I've chosen, I have it down to 2 outfits now. I will be there. I've been offered to throw a tree in, but I will give that away. Carter loves it. He knows over here. I will gift my throwing of a tree option to anyone who wants to go. It's good. You'll see the parks comes out. You'll see the administration of parks there. It's a nice event, and you get to leave with a little bag of yeah. So that's good. One other thing just before we go in, there was a bit of a debate around DeSalvio. Remember when we last met, and there was a topic of DeSalvio, I think it was even as it was November, when Parks had asked that we pass a resolution around the removal of the climbing wall. Well, has not happened yet. It's being blocked, and I guess we had some members of the community, and Coral was on the thread, and some others who said that the park has not been really maintained. And including the area where the wood was covering the wall. And that so there was a request to visit it more often to clean it up. I think it's going back to this question of parks priorities and where they're using their resources and so I think if people have questions, I think they do appreciate it, or issues that it be raised, and that people come through us and say, hey, Parks Department, could you take a look at this space? Because it's got some issues, that being one, but I'm saying any space. I've talked to them offline around that, and I think they do appreciate the help at identifying problems as they work through how to align their resources.
I wanted to share that I was walking by Bleecker Playground last month and I saw Therese Flores working,
There she is.
breaking leaves.
Ah, yeah, so I just, before the new business, my goal, it gets harder and harder to come up with, it gets harder and harder, I guess, sort of come up with agenda items, because I think that there are a lot of projects that we have been discussing for a while that haven't gotten done. That's why it was so refreshing to hear of all these projects that on the waterfront that are done, which is great. I mean, that tennis court thing was a big deal. Even the crosswalk was a big deal, the Pier 45, those are all big projects, and they find a way, they find a way to get them done, and that's great. But if you look through our list of our needs assessment list, our request for capital allocation, there are many projects that are long-term projects. The Dapolito and the rec center and the pool. The whole discussion around 388 Hudson and how that plays into the affordable housing decisions. Obviously, the discussions around Elizabeth Street Garden. There are some that are really long horizon.
Well, can I
Yeah.
add a couple of
Yep.
comments?
Yep.
We have a list of every open space in our district. And if we went through that list and invited the various representatives of each one to come 2 or 3 at a time.
Yeah.
That would cover a lot of meetings. 388, when was the last time we asked Parks what they're doing about that?
That's turned over to
The park part is turned over to whom?
No, the southern parts.
the southern, they were having the bid run it.
But they're bidding on it, but let's do.
No, the Hudson Square bid, the Hudson Square.
But are we saying the design?
No, they haven't put it out.
Right, well,
No,
so
that's-
there'll be a low.
That is one, but I think there are a lot of questions tied to that because of the affordable housing building at 388 and whether or not the southern piece can really be done in an environment where the northern piece is being debated so intensely.
My sense is that it's a done deal.
Excuse me, they told us very unequivocally.
Yeah.
They were gonna go ahead and design the park part.
Yeah.
Without any reference to the building part, and when we said we wish they would consider it as a whole.
Yeah.
They said not necessary,
Who's they?
Parks.
Well, it was Steve Simon with saying support the bids request, and that was, back in the summer. You're right.
So, we can follow up on that.
Well, what would you?
It is my sense that the northern parcel is already being planned as affordable. I mean, I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
Because we have cities returning for.
With the RFP.
Process for the.
Yes.
waterfront.
When
I
they,
think things will. A bit more clearly. The question is, can we build the building with the
Right.
park there? Because the timing and the efficiency we used to run, et cetera. If you're building a big building, can the water tunnel site, what are the protection mechanisms? maybe it can be a plus, you know, and
Well, it was always
Yeah.
expected to be part.
Asked sincerely to have it considered as one parcel, and they completely turned that down.
But that was, I think, when there was still a question of whether the northern parcel was going to be a park or a building. And
There's never any doubt that it was gonna be a building.
I think it was the timing was the concern.
But anyway.
The money set aside by the.
there was, right, the
They
bid had money and there was, right, they wanted to be able to use that money on the southern parcel. And then there was a question, well, we didn't know what was happening on the northern parcel, so could we wait until all that happened?
But we always knew.
Well, Steve was adamant that it get going, I think, and now they haven't come back to us.
Right, well, so we can follow up on that. We could also follow up on whether any of the rumblings that we've made about what our hopes are for Dapolito, are they continuing to pour money into Dapolito? That's a question, to have them come in and let us know, what's the budget for the next 6 months for I mean, I would say unnecessary improvements to Dapolito.
That southern parcel, it's so exciting to me that there's a water tunnel underneath that parcel. And I think it would be so great to have a park that celebrates that. The infrastructure underneath that parcel.
If they could somehow have a staircases down.
Halfway to China.
It's to, like, instead of hiding it, but like really celebrating it, because it's an incredible engineering.
Imagine if they glassed that.
You know,
I was thinking
Wait.
that, you know, we have a lot of private groups that maintain these parks. And it would be nice to meet some of them. Again, we haven't heard from
We have one.
Jackson Square.
I have not heard from them for next month.
Jackson Square is coming in February.
And Jackson Square?
No, not Jackson Square.
Oh, Jefferson
Jefferson
Market is coming in February? Oh, I didn't.
I mean, I think we should go
Last-
through the list.
You're the one who broke
No, but
it.
I was, yeah, but you never locked it in.
Said not January. February.
Have you spoken to them?
You were the
I
the
was
chat, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just said not January, which obviously meant,
I thought it was Jackson, Abingdon, and Jefferson that were coming next month.
Oh, I have no idea what's happening next
I
month.
don't know what's going
I think
I
that,
just planned a trip around being here.
on. All right, I'm sure Jackson.
Okay.
I'm interested in Jefferson Market more. I mean, I think that,
I think we should go through the entire list of all the spaces.
I agree. I mean, sort of like my committee, which has no agency agenda, we kind of cycle through all the various
Yeah.
providers in the neighborhood. We can certainly do that.
We will plan to touch in,
But good evening.
even if it's a
Hello?
submission report.
Yeah.
I think
Hello?
is a great way to get the
I
issue
have a lot of questions.
out in the open.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, you know, we don't hear about things from some of
Yeah.
the groups. And then it's nice to be able to support them in some of their projects that they're
Yeah.
doing. I think about Jane Street with that park when they opened that up to the public.
Yeah,
Like touching base on these things is a very good
Very.
thing.
yeah, except that's one that's not particularly,
I think that's resolved itself, actually.
okay.
There's a
Yeah.
couple of questions. I don't know if you want to address.
Who, I can't.
Valerie?
Struggling, yeah,
Valerie?
yeah, Valerie.
Yeah, I have a
Good
follow-up.
evening.
Hi, yeah, I have a follow-up on the 3-8 Hudson, and I know Nicole's put it in the chat, but I was waiting to speak. So I'm the CB2 representative for the Hudson Square bid. And so there are 2 community input sessions this month, at the end of the month. And there's also a community input survey that's available now. They have a whole microsite. Nicole Barth had put it in the chat, but I was raising my hand for a while to chime in on that. So it's now being called the Hudson Houston Plaza. And they're in the first phase, which is the community input phase. So there's an in-person session on the 30th and a virtual session on the 31st. So there's links in the chat.
Will you share that?
Yeah,
Because I don't have my.
I wish we
It's in the
could
chat.
scroll down to the part of the,
I'll send an email to you guys.
all right, yeah.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. I hadn't heard from Steve on it before. Well, thanks for telling us about
Good evening. It's Jamal Patterson from Parks Department.
it. Yeah, hi.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, good. Yeah, how can we help you?
Okay, so the salvia, I just wanted to comment on the salvia that we are working on a climbing wall.
Okay.
We came today, we were working on issues. We have I think about 4 more, installations of panels that need to be removed. So we're working on that in 4 installations. So we're working on removing the panels from the climbing wall.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, the photos I saw from last week still had the panels over it, so that's progress.
Yeah. Yeah, so we still also have to work with the blacksmith because there's some tension bars, so we have to remove those tension bars as well. So that's, kind of the issue right now we're working on. But we are working on removing all the climbing walls from the salvia.
Thank you. Thanks for the update. Yeah, we had discussed in November. We just I hadn't heard back from, that's great. Thank you for the update on that.
Okay. We also tried to tighten up the barricades. The barricades were kind of loose. So, we try to tighten those up as well. I know, patrons, they can still, climb over the barricades or whatever, but we're working on securing it as, as safely as possible for the patrons.
Well, that's good. I thank you for that. That's good. Now, Coral, I have her, it's the person who reports that into us is
Yeah, she's been on it, but it has, I mean, I walk by it often. I had not noticed it had been separated from the wall as greatly as it had. And that obviously presents a lot of issues.
Yeah, well, I'll tell her.
For many people. So thank you so much for joining the call. I'm sorry, I missed your name from Parks. What is your name again?
It's Jamal.
Oh, Jamal, sorry.
Jamal. Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, no
so thank you, Jamal.
Yeah, no problem.
And Therese told me she stopped by. So thanks so much. But yeah, I had no idea it had been pulled off that badly either. So I'm glad she said, let us know. And she's there, I think, every day with her kids. So I'm sure we'll hear more from her. Yeah.
Exactly.
But thank you, Jamal.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm just telling Pier and Coral that there's been progress on there. Let's see what. And you had a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up, JJ Walker is having further problems. I mean, everybody knows that the park is one of the oldest unrenovated parks and heavily used. I ran into Therese there actually because the slide had to be removed because the metal pathway that goes to it had fallen apart and it's not possible to replace it. So a large part of the structure, probably the most used part, had to be removed. That park is in really, really terrible shape. And I'd like to see if there's something we can do. She has students coming to do a usage study. But she was saying it's one of the oldest unrenovated parks in New York City. So
maybe the fields were renovated.
Yeah, the fields were renovated and the walk area was renovated by the daughters of, what was that?
Oh, the junior league.
Junior league, yeah, I was gonna say daughters of the American.
I think, and the problem with the playground is the people that were taking care of it no longer live there. So they don't live anywhere nearby. And so there's not like a group of people or an individual that are specifically, and I think people have given up because of the Dapolito situation, feeling that nothing will be done until all of that is resolved. And it's unfortunate because it is coveted space that should be being used in some form for the community, even if we don't have Dapolito fixed.
I mean, it's heavily used as it is. The usage on that playground is tremendous. There are hundreds of kids there every day after school. But it's hazardous. All of the floor tiles have come up. The structures are not sound. It's like I take my kids there every day, so I'm pretty aware of how bad it is. That playground.
So maybe Anne, maybe you and I can talk offline on this.
Yes, yeah, we can, and Therese wants us to help with it, so
we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Last time we got improvements there, it was done through Senator Hoylman, I think, and I think so. That is one where we tend to get some additional funding. I don't know what she's talking about. The last oldest non-renovated part, maybe the playground.
The playground, maybe, but the fields were.
She was saying the playground The playground was one of the oldest unrenovated in New York City.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I just think we need capital
Hold
funding
on,
there.
stop. What was that?
What was that?
I said we probably just need capital funding at JJ Walker, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, Jamal, yes, that's what. Yeah. Okay, Frederica, you had a question?
Yeah, so my question is, last weekend I walked through the Washington Square Park from the entering on the northwest corner.
Yeah.
And I saw that the little plaza there was empty and I thought, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
And then I came down the corridor, let's say, in the way to the center. And there were two people who were slumped over with their sleeves rolled up and needles in their arms. So I'm wondering, is that a legal situation? You know, I mean, I really want to know, is
I doubt that it
to be
is.
sitting in the park with shooting up,
We've been told by the police. They have.
what? They have to see it. There was no police presence, but it was so excruciatingly uncomfortable.
I have to say, I mean, just because we talk about this a lot at Human Services on the other committee that I'm on, there seem to be just a lot of people using drugs all over the place. And anecdotally, I saw someone shooting up on my way down into the subway, and there were two cops right at the bottom, you know. And I sort of said, yeah, I guess, what are you gonna do? You're gonna arrest someone who's shooting up? Like, you're just like, what do you?
I wonder what's the law?
So I don't know, but Susan, are you still on? I saw Susan was on.
But I'm wondering if we're interested.
Frederica, I know what it is because I actually had that exact same thing happen that Susanna had, and I confronted the cops about it and was kind of pissed off that they were doing nothing. Unless they witness someone actually injecting, they won't do anything. So it's like right before, right after, there's obvious effects. Unless they see the injection, they won't do anything.
We're talking, our resolution, let me just finish my thought. Our resolution said that we are interested in consistent enforcement.
Yes.
Do we feel that's what we're getting?
Well, this is where.
I think what everybody's saying is that that's the law and that is the most consistent enforcement we're gonna get. And then also nothing's gonna change until we have safe injection sites because people don't have a place to inject, will continue to inject in places where they can. So.
Okay, but I understand what you're saying and I'm not opposed, but we're looking for consistent enforcement. And yet I don't think anyone here knows whether that's legal or not.
Oh, no.
I know public.
It sounds like it.
Between that and smoking in a public.
No, but I think that there is one difference, which I think that if you're law enforcement, you see someone shooting up, it feels like a hopeless situation. Like there's no intervention that you're gonna do that's actually gonna be productive. If you see someone smoking, you tell them to stop, they'll probably stop. Or if you kick them out of the park for skateboarding, I mean, whatever,
But what about offering help?
what would that has been
I'm trying-
done?
Can we
but-
stop? Can we
I'm
stop,
sorry.
please? Susan is trying to organize a meeting that cuts across all these departments, all these committees and all these questions. And we've been trying to arrange this, trying to get the precinct there, we're trying to get the parks
Is
department.
this
there.
written, are you reading the chat?
No, I'm trying to get Susan promoted.
Because she's them earlier. Yeah.
You haven't told me anything about.
It's, she accepting it? Please trust me on this one, just trust me, that if I could promote Susan, she would talk about it.
Okay.
So before we talk about the law and ingestion centers and all that, it's all just allow Susan to arrange. I don't know how to do it, but we're trying to do a broader conversation. Now
We've been
that,
talking about this for some months, right?
Frederica, yes, we've been talking about this.
Okay, just qualifying.
Well, if we don't get her up, it kind of sounds like you've given us a broad strokes.
Yes.
And
the key is getting the precinct there and they will come under certain conditions. They get the Parks Department to come and they'll come under certain conditions. So trust me that we're trying to work.
The issue, I mean, it's a compassion issue. Somebody shoots up and the cops see it, what, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a very complicated to,
So,
and.
It's
I mean,
taking
not-
the largest public space in our district offline. It's making it really
Nobody does-
unusable.
Nobody disagrees.
it's funny, I went through last night and saw people skateboarding in the fountain, so, but they weren't yet. That was,
more benign. If you imagine bringing a 10-year-old into the park, which would you rather see?
It's beyond that, because there's a lot of violence.
Yep, Frederica, I don't think anybody's arguing with you
Yeah,
on
no,
that.
it is.
The question is how to constructively do something about it, we as
Right.
constituents and as a community board. And right now, we don't have a path forward until we come up with some more information.
Yes, thank you.
And money.
What more information?
There's, Frederica, please, I'm trying to control a meeting and people are just jumping in
Sorry.
all, sides, so. And some people have their hands up and some can't speak, so let's just, please, let's not talk about Washington Square Park. It's, yeah, Susan, I don't know how, I'm trying to elevate you to panelist, how to do it, yeah. Okay, but you see Susan's trying to be, I tried, I don't,
Are you able to?
it's not, she's in the attendees category. Yeah, there you are.
Oh, it's on the other computer.
There she goes. She can speak now.
Speak now.
Click on the right again.
Yeah.
Go to promote to panels. Gotta go. Sorry, that was
Susan, do you want to speak now?
Good, okay.
Shall we rejoin?
And she's got. Takes a second.
There she is. And if you go back to panelists, I think you'll see her in. Give her a second to.
Go up to the top left.
It'll go to 18 when she joins.
Once she's a panelist, she should be able to.
Yeah, you just start talking. There she is. All right, Susan, you there?
Here she goes.
Susan, you're muted.
You're muted. Yeah. All right, thanks. Yeah.
It's hard to hear you.
Yeah,
I'm
Thanks.
okay.
that's good.
Better? Better?
Yeah.
Okay. Look, if we're, are we talking about the park specifically?
Yes.
Or not.
I think it's a question now, we had put on hold the discussion of the park and a number of things that were going on because we knew there would be a change in the council, in the representation in terms of the council. So now we have to sort of start, now that the park has sort of changed hands, it's a question of reaching out to Councilmember Rivera's office and putting something together.
That's right. That it was the lines of each district had been changed and the park went to her. It's now under her jurisdiction.
Right. It didn't make sense to continue after a certain point, continuing to work with Chris Marte's team because he simply wasn't going to have say in the process we knew after January 1st. So that's where we are. And it's,
Right.
if we're, drug users is
Yeah, that's
just
fine.
part of it, but a drug user, someone who's shooting up without more is simply a possession charge. And they're not, and the police are not going to be putting their energy into arresting people for a simple possession charge because they will turn right around and be out on the street within hours.
So, yeah. So Susan, do you want to talk, or Mark, and I don't want to put you on the spot here, about any other conversations with getting the precincts, and I'll use an S, to attend a meeting? I know Parks was hesitant to attend without the precinct.
That, if I could jump in for a real quick second, the other thing that, in addition to what Susan mentioned about the changing of the jurisdiction of the city council representation, is that a key player in the meeting that you and Susan and various others were contemplating happening. And remember that the precinct would only participate if CB2 were the facilitator. But a key element of that is the Manhattan Borough Commissioner for the Parks Department is now the Bronx Borough Commissioner for Sanitation. And we don't, I believe, still don't have a permanent replacement. And so he or that office would be another key player. And so the sands are still shifting. I have spent some time with Yanni in Councilmember Rivera's office just to catch her up or begin to catch her up on the issues that Susan and Rich have been so on top of. But there's no initiative yet.
Yeah.
Until we have all those pieces in place, there's nothing to organize.
Just for disclosure, the issues ran much wider than drug use or skateboarding. It was into the movement by Mr. Letterman around the vendors and the
and people wanting to use amplified sound and performance artists and artists in general. There's a number of different issues, and they sort of hit different there are different legal issues for each group that we're concerned about.
But again, without being too simplistic, Parks Department said, look, we got your, I don't know if you recall, Frederica referenced it, we had said we wanted the laws to be consistently applied. Parks Department was trying to follow that. There was some backlash from people who were upset about when things were being applied. Parks said, we don't want to come without the precinct. And then that was partially due to the fact, as you said, that the Parks Commissioner was moving.
Right.
Yeah, and they knew that. Looking back, we're trying to get a meeting with the right people involved, including the elected representatives.
And we need all the elements together, or else this really won't add up to anything.
Yeah, I mentioned that Susanna had said that her committee hadn't been discussed. What committees do you think should be invited, Susan, off the top of your head, if you don't mind?
Well, yes, the two that stand out are Parks and Human Services. I don't know that any others right off the top of my head really register.
Okay, sorry, everybody.
These are repeating events, and I would suggest the board identify specific issues that it wants to talk about and put it down in writing and really divide it, not say here are all the issues. Susanna's committee has done a great job of finding out the information. Everybody knows people's names there. The majority of the people are not unknown to the police department or are not unknown to the outreach teams. The question is, what are we actually trying to do? So break it down into the parts. Because these group meetings don't seem to move us forward at all. And it's not helpful to even the people we want to help.
No, I disagree. I disagree. I do think the value of the meeting is there's astounding. It's an effort, give people an attempt to express their concern to the people.
You also realize that there are some of these that may not be solvable. We may have a range of issues, some of which are simply more solvable than others.
But the example being, if we don't have look, I've sat through meetings where I wish we hadn't had them. The one we had at that was terrible. Yeah, that was a terrible one. But sometimes, like in this case with the drug thing, if it gets enforced and then that goes to the surrounding blocks, if we're trying to get everyone out there to have this conversation, just gotta let us come on, we're trying to get this meeting set.
The issue is when you talk about skateboarding, addiction, drug use altogether, you can't have that discussion. And we tried before the pandemic, and I forget who was involved in that meeting. We had 30 different groups there from the DA's office, and we sat down there and discussed these exact same issues. But I just suggest we break these up. And I'm not saying people don't need to vent, but identify what the problems are first.
Yeah.
And then go forward so we're all on the same page. You even see here, we're all talking about, we all care about it. Cool.
Okay.
Nothing changes.
Well, other than the Parks Department gets cut. I see Jeffrey and Darlene. I don't have an update on Dorothy Square and Grand Canal. And quite honestly, I wouldn't have I wouldn't think to ask them because it's a project that has a time frame. So are you seeing anything, Darlene or Jeffrey or with Pete, that makes you think they're not on schedule? I wouldn't think it's time for an update in that, you know, they're progressing, a lot of it's underground for the Grand Canal. They set a date that said they'd give it back to us in, I have to look at my notes, in a few years. Is there a question of, are you seeing something that suggests that Grand Canal isn't being done?
Hi, it's Darlene. Happy New Year, all. Yes, I'm seeing something that's not being done at all. The Grand Canal MTA project started really slowing down in early November. Then half of the staging site, which is Trinity's 76 Varick Street location, formerly the Party Bar location, half of that was cleared. Well, not cleared. They just dumped everything from half of it onto the other half. All this massive equipment to make way for Soho Christmas trees to set up there for the season. I expected it to come roaring back. And then it just, you know, and the work just kept petering down and down and down until I didn't see anybody working all through December on Grand Canal Station. And I expected it to come roaring back yesterday morning. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be, you know, suffering. And there's nothing's going on there. It's like trees are gone. The tree guys left, and it's just dead as the doorstop. So I have established some talking relationship with the site, the site manager. They were blindsided by the Christmas tree people coming in. That was kind of a conflict. So I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, there's nothing going on there. And I don't hear anything, you know, I try and keep up with the MTA to see if they're chit-chatting with the DEP about the other project that's supposed to start in Duarte. Because, you know, the flooding that Grand Street experienced was nothing new. This has been going on for as long as for the 40 plus years I've lived here. That was supposed to alleviate that problem, the flooding, which is a huge deal. And that doesn't seem to be anywhere in the hopper, as far as I can tell, to get that underway. So it doesn't, you know, so it's finally, you know, that part of the infrastructure that they've been talking about for decades is done.
Well, Darlene, could it be that some work's being done underground?
No, there's nothing going on with the DEP. I mean, nothing. There's no. There's nothing going on. Or at the there's look,
okay.
Do you know how many,
But you know how many projects,
you know how many workers are working on that MTA project? I mean, and I have to say, they are stellar. I mean, I've never seen, I mean, they've gone down 70 feet vertically to put in that substation, that MTA substation. I mean, it is, I've gotten some really incredible views of it, and it's incredible work, but all of a sudden it's just stopped. And, you know, somebody said, oh, it's winter. And I was like that doesn't stop construction in New York City. So why is it stopped? It started petering out early November and came to a roaring halt December 1st. I was like, where is everybody?
This is not a parks issue.
so it's
Well, it's happening in a park.
yeah, we can ask whether or not the schedule.
So, you know, we want the park restored. I don't really care about the park. I care about the construction getting done.
Yeah, and so the question
They
is,
said it was going to be at the end of 2024 for that MTA substation project.
right, and they were going to give the space back. So the question to Parks to tell us is there any change to that schedule? Which we can ask, and we can get them to come and give an update on all the open projects. It just wasn't going to be the first Wednesday of January. We can get that as part of February, I suppose. Actually, Okay, that's it. As I said, there were.
On that, I thought there was an agreement that when you were discussing the substation, that they were going to, the three different things, the construction projects who were down there, were all going to report at least occasionally to the community board to update you and keep you apprised. And I had other things to say after that.
Jeffrey, if I had an update, I would share it.
The only other things that I would say is it's time for some positive news, because there's been so much negative stuff that's just recently been discussed. And to that end, Ralph Mussolino was good to his word after that last meeting, and he did send the vacuum truck twice to clean out the sewer at the Vesuvio Park ballpark, and that was accomplished. And that was, and to pay them back, because I know that a 5% budget cut's going to hurt even parks. I'm taking on myself to occasionally sweep the park myself, and the perimeter to pick up the trash. And the other piece of good news, of course, and thank you anybody at the community board or even the other neighbors that have had a hand in it, the agreement that was worked out about Morton Williams has given our gardeners a great deal of confidence and restored their motivations. And this is good news, especially just before a snowfall, because we are the ones that clean the sidewalk during the snowfall. So we're appreciative of everyone who participated, and thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. The Morgan Williams, 13 years or 15 years?
Well, it's 13 years and Morton Williams has a 5-year option after that. And then failing that the SCA does not actually commit, they can get another 5 years beyond that. So it could be as much as 13 years plus 2 5s, so it'd be 18 or 23 years, and I won't worry about it after that because I'm 75.
But yes, and you're right. I do recall. I think we may have talked about in November that Ralph did go and clean up the drain at the southwest corner of the Vesuvio until it's possible. I think they were working to properly connect the drain to the sewer.
And it took them. They had to send the vacuum cleaner truck twice. It was so full that the first day the truck filled up and they had no more room, so they come back the second day and do a second vacuuming, 2 full trucks. But now it seems to be fine. And so actually, the week that they did it was just before all the leaves fell, and so then the leaves fell, and we were predicted to have a very heavy rain. So I went out there and shoveled all the leaves away from the drain as much as I could, figuring that there's no point in clogging it right back up again. And since then, they've had parks employees have come and cleaned up the leaves and so forth. So,
well, that's the point. I think the Ralph and Teresa and Jamal, I do think they appreciate not just that sort of support, but also the awareness of issues. Any work on the ponding that occurs in between and on the east side of Morton Williams that we talked about, the drainage?
I have heard nothing other than that they really don't know what to do about it, and they know that there's maybe that they know there's not going to be a building built.
Yeah.
Maybe they will come in and do something about the sidewalks. I know our gardeners have a policy of cleaning it as well as we can in the wintertime, particularly when we know that it's going to be wet. We try to get out there and sweep the water out as much as we can out into onto LaGuardia Place, so that there isn't an ice skating pond to get to the supermarket. But that's problematic, It's not a great solution, but at the same time, cutting a hole into the garden so it could drain into the garden would be a good solution either, because all the salt would then come in and kill all the plants.
Oh, right.
So,
that's right. Yeah, I did mention that.
right. Some kind of drain right in place might not be bad. A grate with a gravel down below. Like the kind that they have at the Vesuvio Park, right on that corner. But that's a low spot, and until they can really elevate the whole sidewalk, which I don't see a reasonable way to do. The only thing they could conceivably do is put a straight down drain somewhere and hope that the basin is big enough to absorb the amount of flow. Meanwhile, our gardeners will continue to try to keep it as clean as we can and as dry as we can. If a puddle develops, it usually dries out within a few days in all but the winter months. In the winter
Yeah.
months, it can be problematic, so we focus our efforts there.
We do have a few days of below freezing, so.
Yeah, and we're expecting a lot of water coming up, maybe snow. I don't know. If we get 6 inches of snow, we usually end up with 2 or 3 old gardeners getting out there and shoveling and doing what we can.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, okay, so we have, so I think we have a few things. We have reports from some of the parks.
Thank
We
you.
have the market and we have, Jefferson Market, we'll get Jackson and Abington. You'll check in with them.
I'll write to Jeff's Market
The
tomorrow.
gentleman who would run the group has passed away. I think what was his name?
Don't remember.
So there's been some,
I have a terrible memory.
yeah, so we'll do that and then we'll get an update on parks on the open projects, including the TRCA canal, Grand Canal status. And then just looking at our other requests, and then and obviously the third Valerie said was the discussion of 388. What did we call it? Houston, what was the term that we?
Since Weston,
Yeah, the plaza.
Yes.
So that is the 30th and 31st. That's right. And so that's, I think, sets the next couple. That's, you know, January, February. And then, of course, Susan and I will work on the broader Washington Square discussion. Okay, no resolution. Except to do the thanks everyone for joining.
who's waiting 20 years?
Yeah, who's waiting,
That's really well. Daniel.
Dry January, I've done that before, so days, right? Vegetables are great. Hard for me to do it, but yeah, I'd like to try. I mean, it's not hard to do like.
Thanks all. Happy New Year.
But yeah,
Thank you, everyone.
thanks, yeah.
Happy New Year.
Bye, Mark.